Hey, everybody, welcome to Behind the Bar. I'm your host, Danny Johnson. My guest today, as you can see, Brian Bates is joining me. Thanks for joining me today. He has two dry bar specials.
Yeah,
Uber important and hello, folks, which is the way I say it when I read that title. Hello, folks.
that's
Uh,
good. That's the way I say it.
yeah. So if you don't know him from his dry bar specials, you may have seen him the Grand Ole Opry. I read that you performed there.
Yep.
What else? Stand Up Nashville, I think.
Go stand up Nashville. Now I'm probably most known from podcast I'm on, NateLand, with
NateLand Podcast.
with Nate Bargatze and Aaron Weber and Dusty Slay.
Yeah, I think Nate's last name is the one of the only last names I say differently every time I say it. Not that I say
Yeah,
it a lot, but it's Getzy, whatever.
yeah. So Grand Ole Opry, Dry Bar, Sirius XM, and
Oh,
NateLand.
Huckabee too. I watched your Huckabee. So first of all, I watched both your specials. I watched your Huckabee set and the Stand Up Nashville set. I also watched a interesting clip of you on your site. I think it was all African American audience,
Yeah, yeah.
and I got to
Yeah.
tell you, man, you killed it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad recording that video has gotten a ton of views on YouTube. And I posted it like 5 years ago. And my only regret is that was right before I realized that you needed to start captioning all your
Mm,
videos that you post.
yeah.
And I mean, it's still done great. And I went on there later and typed in the closed caption. So if you click on closed caption, you can follow along. But the audio is not great. So many of the comments are, I can't understand a word this guy's saying.
Right.
So I think if I'd have put the captioning on right, it would have gotten even a lot more views.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell obviously you're a tenured comedian the way you handled it. When you come out,
Hmm.
even though the host introduced you as a good friend, right? And
Yes.
he's African American, and you
Yeah.
come out and embrace the sort of not shock, but that moment of I'm the only white guy in here.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't rush to the microphone. You didn't. I got to be funny now. You just kind of embraced it.
Yeah. I played up. I mean, I played to it. That was such a great crowd. And so I just played along kind of the awkward white guy and they
Yeah.
went with it. It was so much fun. I'm just so glad I was recording that.
Yeah, I've had some mixed reactions doing a crowd like that too, especially if like I think if I remember back to the very first time ever was when I was first starting, I was emceeing for like a Ricky Smiley. Um and then for it wasn't DC Curry, it was somebody else they're obviously a huge draw and these people paid 30, 40, $50 to see
Right.
them. And they're like, what besides announcements, what do you got for me, boy? Let's bring up the next guy. Come on.
Yeah. Was that at the Jacksonville Comedy Zone?
Yeah. That's where
Yeah.
I started there.
Yeah. That crowd, luckily that night, that was at Zany's here in Nashville, and the host set me up so well and it went well. But I've had the same experience. I've had different times where it doesn't go so well.
Yeah.
So I
I've
know the
done
feeling.
Zanies, but I love that Zanies is your home club, I assume, in Nashville, right?
Yes. Yes.
I've done that club twice. I featured for the Tennessee Tramp,
Oh yeah, Janet
Janet
Williams.
Williams, right? And then I did one of the last comic standing auditions there.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I did one there, so we could have even been on the same show.
Maybe it was I stood out, it was snowing. I remember standing on line. I wasn't like one of those comics that had representation, that got right in or whatever. So I was in line for
Yeah.
hours, snow on my shoulder like a half inch.
All right, that might be a different one then, because I don't remember that.
It was I think the year that John Heffron won. Is it John Heffron?
Yeah, John Heffron did win one year. Yeah, I think that one. That's been a while, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was before. I did not do that one.
Yeah.
I remember in Nashville, but I did not do that one. I did one years later.
Did you when I went in, it was just two judges. There was a short, skinny guy and a very obese man. And that was it. You got
It wasn't.
120 seconds.
It wasn't the guys from Cheers.
No.
Because one year, and I was thinking it was the year you're talking about. Maybe they just came for the actual live taping. Norm and Cliff from Cheers
Whoa.
were the judges. But I guess you just had like producers or something.
Yeah, it was just like two producers and then like camera people, and I'm already shivering from the snow, and then I'm shivering from nerves.
Yeah.
One guy loved me, the other guy hated me, and they were like, "Thanks," and I left. And I was like, and then I saw Heffron. So we went back that night for the actual whoever was performing that night,
Right.
and Heffron left in the same car as the two judges, and then he ended up winning. I was like, all right, come on.
Yeah, I guess that's a sign.
Well, he's a good comic. I mean, don't get me
Oh
wrong,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but let's dive into your dry bar special. So for me, it was one of the best experiences of my life to get to film a dry bar special. And
Yeah.
you've had now two experiences doing it. Walk the audience through what your experience was with dry bar.
Yeah. So, and I didn't thank you for having me on, by the way. I didn't even
Oh,
say
you're
that
welcome.
when we started. When dry bar first started, so I've been doing comedy for 16 years altogether. I got a late start in life on it. And when dry bar first started, however many years ago, it was just obviously it's made some guys' careers and
Yep.
huge viewership. I never even considered myself, never even crossed my mind that I would be worthy of doing a dry bar.
Right.
And then a comic I knew here in Nashville got a dry bar, and he'd been doing it even less time than I had. And I thought, well, maybe I could then. And I reached out to the booker, and it was a pretty quick process that I got booked to do it. And this was I don't know, all the seasons run together, but they'd been doing it long enough where they kind of run through the best guys who could do clean material for a whole set. And so the first time I did it was, oh boy, 4 years ago, maybe. And, went out there, and Keith Stubbs, who runs the Wise Guys, said, if you want to come a day early, you can co-headline a show here at Wise Guys, and you can run through your set. And I said, sure, that'd be great. So I flew in, and I did co-headline the show at Wise Guys. It went well, and I did like 40 minutes. And when I got off stage, he called me back to his office. He said, we're not doing 40-minute sets anymore, right? For dry bar. And I was like, no one told me that. He's like, oh yeah, we're doing like 25-minute sets now.
Right.
And I was like, oh. So I was the first weekend of when they shortened it down to like 25 minutes. So I had to go back to my hotel room and cut, and kind of get a new set in my head. And in fact, one of the other comics that was on that weekend with me, nobody even told him, and he went over on his time.
Wow.
Because no one had told him that, we've shortened it. So it was a great experience. I wish I had chose some jokes differently on that first one.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. Some jokes, you know how we are. We always think against everything we do. And there were some jokes that didn't hit as well as I'd have liked. And, I always look back in retrospect, like, oh, I should have done this or done that or whatever. But it was still a great experience. And it was still, I never had anything like that. Still haven't had anything like that done as far as a multi-camera special shot for,
Yeah.
And then, then COVID hit, and it took a while for it to come out. It came out during COVID, during the heart of COVID, which was good and bad. It was good in the sense that maybe more eyeballs were on it, stuck in the house. Maybe bad in the sense that I wasn't touring anyway because of COVID, so I couldn't get booked.
Right, as a result of the special, right.
Yeah, so it was kind of a, catch-22 there. And then last year, I went back and did another one, and still another great experience. I knew what to expect this time. Obviously I haven't done it once before, and I guess I was a little bit more relaxed this time.
Yeah,
and
you know what to expect, and kind of because I tell people that I've never been more nervous before a show than it was before that taping, because I've had small TV spots and other high pressure situations, but
Mhm.
this is sort of being recorded, and you may or may not have control over the editing of it, right? They give you a sheet to fill out, like your
Right.
feedback's appreciated, but ultimately you're like, I got 2 shots, 2 shows.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah. And I was hoping to just knock it out of the park on the first one, so then I could relax a little bit on this, on the second taping of the night. But my experience, what I remember is I was nervous, and I didn't like, just like, oh, that was a slam dunk on the first one. So that put
Right.
more pressure on the second one
Yeah.
to get it right. But it's kind of a blur.
Yeah, and then the staff is top notch. I mean, you're first class all the way, and just so kind and so
Oh
comforting.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I did the same thing you did. I went in the night before, and I got to watch two. I was probably one of the last weeks of the 40-minute specials, right? So
Okay.
I watched the two guys who were filming on Friday night,
Yeah.
and then I even kind of went up on stage in between just to kind of get a feel of what it looked like, felt like. And then the next night I filmed, so I felt like I'd already been up there.
Right.
Kind of put me at ease.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one, the one that I taped that just came out a couple weeks ago, um, I'll share some behind the scenes
Yeah.
of editing or whatever. So as you know, with dry bar, generally speaking, you're going to get a standing ovation.
Yeah.
It's just kind of expected, and they kind of tell you it's like it's like a TV show. They
Sure.
tell you
Yeah. It's a
ahead
production.
of time. Yeah, it's production. They say, hey, blah 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 blah, and so I taped this one, the second one I did, and I went first. There's 3 comics on a show. I went first. There's the host, then
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And I went first, felt like I had a good set. Got done. No one stood. Second comic goes up, has a good set. No one stands. Third comic goes up, and he's a high energy, like almost, the kind that you just have to stand up for. No one stands. And I was kind of surprised. And I said something to one of the producers there for Dry Bar about it. I mean, I just asked her, and she said, well, the host, the MC, he forgot to tell the audience that it would be good to stand at the end.
Right.
So we'll make sure he does it for the second taping. And I said, okay. And I listen, and he does. He tells the audience, hey, it really looked good, if you guys stood at the end.
Right. Right.
I go up, have a good set. No one stands.
Oh no.
Second comic goes up, and he actually at the end does this with his hand.
Right.
Like, if you're listening, he's basically motioning to the audience to stand, thinking, well, they can edit out me doing that, and he gets them to stand.
Oh,
Third
no.
comic goes up and just tells them, hey guys, this is my last joke. It'd really be great if you stood at the end and gave me a standing ovation.
No way.
So now I'm the only one who didn't get a standing ovation. And the host is wrapping up, basically telling everyone goodbye. Comic number 2 says, hey, we should get him to get you a standing ovation now. And it was really fast. So he runs around to comic number 2 runs around to the front of the stage, says, hey, Brian didn't get a standing ovation. Can we do it now? And the host is like, what? Okay, sure. So I walk out on stage. Now the crowd's already basically getting up to leave.
Right. Right.
They sit back down. They don't understand what is even going on. They just think, oh, poor Brian didn't get a standing ovation, and he's so insecure that he needs it now, like a Make-A-Wish kid or something. They just they immediately start clapping. I don't even have a microphone in my hand.
Right.
There's no symmetry. My water bottle, which I had not touched, is now empty because it's the last comics up there. The stool is at a different place. I have to go move all this stuff myself to try to get it back in place.
Continuity, right?
Continuity. And who knows, what the director's even thinking. So, but we do it. And, so if you watch it, it's kind of obvious because, on a real standing ovation, it's a gradual stand up.
Right. Right.
On mine, there's just a quick cut and everybody stands at the same time because it was manufactured. So it was a little awkward ending. It's fun. It's a funny story. I've told it on the podcast, and
I'm gonna go back and watch it.
Yeah.
I've seen Seinfeld a couple of times, and he has a good joke about the standing O, about how some people are really into it. They get up right away and they're clapping, and then other people are like, Are we doing this or
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right? It's very
yeah,
reluctant, to go up.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, so it's a funny story. It really, it's behind the scenes of behind the bar
Yeah, yeah.
of what goes on.
I like that. That's a clip right there, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
I don't love, I say that sarcastically. I've seen comics in just regular shows, not even tapings. They'll
yeah.
get the big applause and then they'll linger and step back slower and slower towards the exit of the stage, but they'll linger kind of like give me the standing
Trying
O.
to
Like
get it.
I I won't do that. I can't.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like with my first dry bar, they were kind of slow to stand, and I feel like I even reached out and shook some hands up front, almost like I was lingering to get that standing O.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not above it.
I've poked fun at some dry bar comedian friends of mine who have mentioned to people in
Mhm.
conversation or posts on social media that they got a standing O at their special. And I call them out like, yeah, we all
We all do.
come on. It's not,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
what I
Uh,
liked about watching your two specials was to kind of follow your life a little bit, right? So
mhm,
Uber Important talks about how you're an Uber driver and a comic. That's your
mhm.
first joke. So essentially, I'm an Uber driver. And that you were single, late 40s, and then
Yep.
you kind of go into hello folks, and you start off with I'm 51, my wife's 46, and we have a 1 year old or what I don't know,
Yes.
18 months or whatever at the time.
At that time, she was 7 months.
Seven
She's 18
months.
months now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool to see the progression of this is how a comedian develops his material based on his life experiences.
Yeah. I mean, all my jokes were about, like you said, about being single in my age. And then I think when I recorded that dry bar, the first one I was dating my wife. So I had a girlfriend, but it was still, most of my material was about not being able to get a girl. And now most of my material is about my wife or my daughter.
Right.
So it is funny how that evolves like that.
Do you have to run it by her? Do you have to get permission to say, hey, I'm thinking about doing a bit about this?
Yeah, I mean, she's never said no to anything, but no, I will admit sometimes I try it out first,
Sure.
and then if it doesn't really hit that well, then I don't even have to tell her about it if I'm going to kill the joke. But if it's doing well and I think, oh, this one might stick, then I run it by her just to make sure she's okay with it.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing with my girlfriend. I'll be like, yeah, I want to talk about this, and I won't make
Yeah,
you. If you're concerned as you looking bad, you won't. It's gonna come back on me eventually.
that's right. That's right. All my jokes, even if they're about her, they maybe with a couple exceptions. I mean, they're usually just really poking fun at me if you listen close enough.
Oh, of course, of course. I know a comic that whose wife forbids him to do material about her and the family, and I'm like, you need to get divorced. You're missing out on an hour of material.
Yeah, you need to put your career ahead of your wife.
So you mentioned in your special that you dated your now wife before and you broke up. That's
Yes.
that's one of my favorite jokes of yours, why you guys broke up.
Hmm.
And then how did you reconnect? I don't know if I remember that.
We reconnected on Match. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, we had a mutual friend fix us up. We dated, we went our separate ways, and then we reconnected 11 years later on Match.
Does that ever come back in fights? Like the fact that you broke up already, does that come back and bite you?
No, I mean, I guess because the way I tell the joke is kind of true. I mean, it wasn't like one of us broke up with the other one. I mean,
Okay.
I guess you could say essentially me being the guy, it was more on me since I should have been the pursuer,
Right.
but it wasn't like some bad breakup or I just stopped even calling her really. It just kind of, we went on a few dates, kind
I
of just
got you.
and went from there. So no, it doesn't really come up now. We sometimes talk about, well, why didn't it work the first time?
Right.
And we don't even hardly remember the timing, I guess. Or maybe it really was what I say in my joke. We just both thought we could do better.
Yeah, yeah. But I thought it was a very interesting story too, because even when, I think I reached out to you months and months ago and you said, hey, it's kind of hectic. I'm this age and I have a new baby. And I was like, wow, I
Yes.
got I got to talk about that if I get him on the
Yeah.
podcast. And
Yeah. I mean, I'm 50, almost 52, and I have a 18-month-old baby. So it's our first child.
Right.
My wife's a little bit younger than I am, but she's now 47.
Right.
And so it's an odd experience, but it, it makes good material.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. I used to think so. I was married for a while and I've been divorced for a while now, but having my son and then raising my now ex stepdaughter, I guess you can say. I consider her my daughter, but it's just the material is plentiful if you're listening and watching, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had quite a bit of material about my daughter, and she's only a year and a half. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to force it, and um, there's a lot of material that doesn't work. But I mean, she's she's a year and a half. She can't
Yeah.
even really talk and do anything yet. So
It's not like
it'll
you're
come.
yelling at your baby, like you're not providing me with enough material.
Yes, yes. Come on, do something funny to
Do something,
Dad
do
needs a new
something
clothes.
funny.
Yeah.
I did you do Huckabee and stand up Nashville before your dry bars?
But I did Huckabee in between my two dry bars.
In between, okay.
Yeah, because
So
I was married and had a baby. I remember mentioning that on Huckabee.
how nerve-wracking is that, being on Huckabee? I mean, he's a former presidential candidate,
Right.
governor,
Oh,
right?
so that was very interesting. I sometimes do audience warm up for his show.
Oh, okay.
And so I was familiar with the set and the people that works there. And then they emailed me one day and said, "Hey, we'd like to record your warm up set and air it on the show the week of July 4th because we're going to be on vacation." And I was like, okay, there's a reason it's called the warm up set because the audience isn't
Mhm.
warmed up. So
Right, right.
I was very concerned about this, that it was not going to look good because I'm going to go out there cold and I didn't want it to look bad. And they assured me that no, we'll get them going. And I was still a little nervous about it, but they did to their work. Even Huckabee himself went out before I did
That's nice.
and said, "Hey guys, this warm up comic," he said, "we're actually taping this. It's going to air, down the road. So give them your best."
Oh, that's
And
huge.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So they were great. And I mean, I recorded that maybe in May and it aired the week of July 4th.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a beautiful set that they have there. And the fact that I'd done it a few times as a warm-up comic
Yeah.
made it,
And you would think warm up is a little different than stand up sometimes too, you know. It's not straight joke, you know, set up punch. Sometimes it's like getting them to applaud or talking
yeah.
about the instructions of a show. Like if you see this applause sign, then we expect it. Like, but it was just straight stand up, so it was
Yeah, their warm-up comics, they just want you to do straight stand-up.
that's
So
fantastic.
yeah, it's no like engaging with the audience. I mean, you can, but they're fine with you just going out there and doing 7 minutes of comedy off the top. Just
One one of my previous podcast guests, Lee Harden, did Huckabee and his fly was open the whole set. They had to post edit that.
yeah,
Uh,
I've heard that story. Lee's actually the comic that I was referencing when I said when he got a dry bar. I
yeah,
thought he's been doing it less time than I have, so
yeah,
I guess I could do it.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, Lee. I've heard Lee tell that story about his fly being down on Huckabee, and
I
can you
can.
see it?
I did. I watched his set, his Huckabee set. I didn't notice it, and
Yeah,
I guess they fixed it, by
yeah,
post production or whatever. But
yeah.
I check my fly 1,000 times a day. It's to this day.
I do too. I do too. And whenever I'm getting laughs that seem like odd, like in the
Yeah,
setup or they're really into it, I start getting insecure. Like, what's going on? Is my
yeah.
fly down?
You check your nose. You're like wiping your nose or mouth or
Yeah.
your teeth,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
anything.
Absolutely. You asked me about stand up live. Now I've done two of those. And I think the first one I was still single, maybe before I even did any dry bar. I can't remember. And then the second one, I was already married, but I don't think I had kids yet.
Right. So the first dry bar was pretty huge as far as nerves go
Yeah,
with your experience.
absolutely. I'd never done anything like that, and never done makeup and all that stuff, pre-production, and having to pick out wardrobe
Yeah.
and all that. And I think it for me, I don't know about you, but I don't move around a ton on the stage, but still just them telling me don't go past this line.
Yeah.
I got in my head a little bit
Yep.
and I kind of felt confined in there. So I was definitely nervous when I did it.
I told them that I sweat. I'm pretty laid back on stage. I'll ramp up a little bit sometimes and come back to my normal, but I sweat a lot. And I
Yeah.
told them my glasses fog up. I hate wearing glasses on. So if I take my glasses off, it's not to make a point so they can air out. And the makeup lady's like, I got you. So she did this like multi-layer 4K makeup spritz, makeup spritz. And she goes, just don't touch it. You won't sweat at all on your head or face. She did my head. I don't have any hair. So she did my head.
Mhm.
And I kid you not, I was sweating underneath the two shirts, but nothing on my face. And if you watch my special, I had an itch on my face a couple of times, and I used my little pinky nail, like, because I didn't want like a big smudge of cake,
Yeah.
because it was
Yeah.
thick.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
And
That's funny.
yeah, yeah. Um, are you a Nashville guy, born and raised?
I am. I am. I
Oh,
mean, just outside of Nashville, but yeah, Nashville suburb, but born and raised. And Nashville has changed a lot in the last few years. And
I think it's a number. I saw a video last night of most um cities with the most people moving to them in the last 2 years. Austin was one. I think Nashville was two.
yeah, Nashville and Austin are the two cities that you just hear about a lot that are everybody's moving to from California and from other places. Yeah, when I first started in comedy 16 years ago, Nashville, it didn't seem like a place you could, if you really wanted to make it in comedy, that you could stay in. You had to
Right.
go to New York or LA or something like that. But as you know now, with social media and video
Yeah.
technology, you don't have to leave to go to New York or LA to make it. And then Nashville has gotten. We still only have one comedy club, Zanies, but Nashville's gotten to be such a cool city, and so many people are coming there. It just seems like, and there's a lot of great comics that live there. It just seems like you can. I mean, I'm living here and making a living doing
Yeah.
stand up. So
Yeah. I think it's like Jacksonville too. Comedy Zone is the only comedy club. But you can find an open mic every night of the week
yeah,
somewhere,
yeah,
which are
yeah.
tough. I mean, I'll do them from time to time, especially if I'm prepping for something. I need to hear myself say it to an audience or whatever. But
Mhm.
it's a little humbling at times when,
Oh gosh, I went to an open mic. I don't go very often. Just again with the baby and stuff.
yeah,
It's hard. And then thankfully I am pretty busy on weekends doing shows. But I went to an open mic recently and had this thought in my head that I'm going to show up at this open mic and everybody's going to be like, "Whoa, Brian Bates is here,"
right, right,
and I got humbled so bad. One, no one cared.
right,
Nobody, they're half my age, so they're like, "Who's
yeah,
the old guy?"
right. Is he here
And
to pick
then I got
somebody up?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then I got up there and kind of bombed. Not kind of, I bombed,
Yeah,
you know, in my 4 minutes or whatever that they gave me.
yeah,
So I left there with my tail between my legs, like, yeah, nobody cares.
yeah. Man, I had this. So probably my worst bomb and worst being guilty of my own arrogance early on in my career. I maybe 3 4 5 years into doing stand-up, I entered this Comedy Central contest called Laugh Riots, right? And made it to the semifinals, and they filmed it in Atlanta. And I made it on Comedy Central for like 2 minutes. Like they showed like the making of. I didn't make it to the finals
Okay,
or ultimately win it. But anyway,
right.
all of a sudden it's a credit Comedy Central, right? So I booked this private gig. They want stand up and improv, me and three other guys. We're just doing this improv and we're eating it hardcore. No one's
Yeah,
laughing. It's a big
yeah.
ballroom full of people. And I'm saying, and my two buddies are up there doing an improv game. They're dying. I say to my buddy backstage, I go, look, we got 15 minutes left and then we get paid. We got to get out of here. I said, you go up there and you tell them that Danny Johnson from Comedy Central is going to do his Comedy Central set for them tonight. And Brian, when I tell you that they couldn't have cared little, it was horrible. It was never sweated that much on stage. Nothing. It was like a lecture. I might as well have been
Yeah.
lecturing.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that hurts to hear it. It
Yeah.
feels good and it hurts at the same time because we've all been there. And,
Yeah.
um, my dry bar, my first one, I closed telling a story about my worst bomb, which
Yes.
I'm not going to share the whole joke or the whole story, but it was at my hometown of Lebanon at the Wilson County Livestock Association, and my mom and family and all these people were there. And that joke had been killing on the road, and I've been closing on. I was that time opening for Nate Bargatze a lot on the road,
Okay.
and his kind of self-deprecating style of humor. That joke was working really, really well with his crowds. On Dry Bar that night, I didn't feel like it did that great, especially as a closer. And somebody told me afterwards who was there, they said, these audiences in Provo, and I want to hear what you think about this. He said, these audiences in Provo, they're so excited to see comics. They all think you guys are big deals. So they didn't know quite how to take this bombing and this,
Right.
and
Right.
my opening joke about driving for Uber, again, they think you're a big deal. So they're like, wait, he drives for Uber?
Right. Right.
And my buddy made this point, like, I don't know that they know how to take that because they think you guys are stars.
Right.
And maybe he's right. Maybe, the
Yeah.
joke just did not hit as hard as it had been doing.
I think so. I think he's right. I think they look, because when I reply to some of the comments on social media from Dry Bar,
Mhm,
um, people, some mostly good, but some very funny bad ones.
mhm.
Uh, they're astonished, that I'm taking the time to do that. And
Right.
I like doing it. I like
Yeah.
reading it. Obviously, I love reading good stuff about myself. But
Yeah.
but I think that's maybe it. Like, wow, it's almost like, why is some comics ask, why is the introduction important when you're bringing me up on stage? It's not totally important, but it does give you some credibility, to the crowd if they don't know who you are, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Who are some of
Yeah.
your influences now or early on?
Well, I've always worked clean, and so I've always kind of gravitated toward clean comics.
Yeah.
Early on, Brian Regan, I mean, still is
Oh
Brian
my
Regan,
gosh. Yeah.
Gaffigan, Seinfeld, those guys. And then, you know, for the last few years and now, I mean, it's weird to say it because he's my friend, but Nate Bargatze
Sure.
is one of my favorites. And um, gosh, there's so many. Greg Warren, he's done a dry bar. He's very, very funny.
I've seen him on your podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Greg is super funny. Um, Joe Zimmerman. I think Joe Zimmerman's done a dry bar.
I think he just released his half hour or whatever,
Yeah,
the YouTube
yeah,
one. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm forgetting some people, but
I saw Joe. I went to one of Nate's shows in Jacksonville when he was here.
yeah,
And it's actually turned into a joke. You can feel free to share it with him, but I say I've only used it a couple of times, but from my girlfriend for her birthday this year, she asked me to get her tickets to see another comedian.
Mm.
I said, "How many areas of this relationship am I falling short?" Jeez.
Yeah, that's funny.
Now we got to go into a giant theater where she leans over and she goes, "This is what success looks like."
Oh,
No, she didn't say that, but
I
and then
know, but I
at
bet
the
when
end
you
I
say
go,
that, how do the
right.
crowd take that? They're like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they do that. And then I go, thanks, Nate Bargatze or Getzy, whatever.
yeah.
And it gets a little, but the thing that gets the most laugh is, how many areas of this relationship am I falling short?
That's very funny the
'Cause
way you
that's her
say it.
favorite comic is Nate. So not me.
Yeah,
And we,
I don't even know if I'm in my wife's top 10. I don't even
right.
know if she knows I do comedy.
But she did take me to see Seinfeld. I took her to see Nate, and Seinfeld's the king to me. So I got
Oh,
to see Seinfeld in Jacksonville as well. So I
oh,
guess
that's awesome. I
I
keep
guess
waiting for him to come back to Nashville.
I can't believe I shouldn't say I can't believe. You know, as comics, I don't know about you, but I laugh occasionally when I'm listening to other comics, but a lot of times I appreciate the way they worded it, and I'm like, that's really funny. I wish I thought of that. You know,
Right.
I think
Right.
Brian Regan and Seinfeld and some others really make me laugh out loud. But she's like, "Are you enjoying this?" As we're watching Seinfeld, you know, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm enjoying it," but I'm
You're taking it
listening
in.
to
Yeah.
the artwork of it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. When I first started, I think I watched stand-up comedy as a fan still. And my buddies who were comics would be like, "Oh, I liked it when he did this or whatever." And
yeah,
I'm like, I didn't even notice that because I was still in the fan mode.
right,
Over time, it has shifted. So now, yeah, when I'm watching, same thing. If I'm watching someone's special on Netflix or whatever,
yeah.
I'm just thinking about the jokes.
I have to be careful. I don't know about you. I have to be careful watching too much comedy because I like to watch my favorites. And but if I find if I watch it too much, or if I'm around them too much, or even if I work for them, for when comedy clubs used to be Tuesday through Saturday or whatever, I work with Greg Giraldo for a week, and I started to take on a little bit of his speed and his cadence, like, and I was like, oh, I got to stop that. Or I remember at one point one of my jokes was delivered a la Seinfeld, like, ba ba
Mhm.
ba, and I heard myself, and I'm like, ugh, I gotta,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously Nate has a very unusual delivery, and when I see him up there killing, it just seeps in, and
yeah,
I want to start talking like that. Um, I drew a blank on. There was somebody else I was just going to mention. Well, Dusty Slay, who's on our podcast,
right,
he has a usual delivery and same thing. And then I just worked with. Doesn't even have to be a guy. I was just in Florida in Pensacola last week, opening for Leanne Morgan,
right.
and, and who's also had a dry bar and
Very distinct speech pattern.
very distinct. And I started talking like her really quickly because she has, I mean, she's very Southern accent, but then she has just phrases and sayings that she says. And I find myself starting to talk like her real quick.
Yeah, it's
Not on
real. My
stage, but
girlfriend loves her too, so we watched her Netflix special, and
yeah,
it goes, you know, deep into the
yes, yes.
southern accent.
Yeah. And that's how she talks all the time. So I find myself in our conversations calling someone darling or just something I would never say, normally.
Right, right. Well, look,
Yeah.
man, I don't want to keep you longer than I would love to. I'd love to keep you forever, but not forever. It's a little much. But
Yeah, it's a little much, but I get what you're saying.
yeah, yeah. But I know you got the 1 year old, and you're
Yeah, I'm back here hiding in the bedroom right now to do this. So
mine's
uh,
17, my son. And it's like just having a roommate, like a broke roommate who leaves a mess all over the place.
well, yeah, I guess I'll get there someday. I bet it went really fast.
Super fast. And Facebook memories remind you of that. It pops up almost, every year around his birthday, and I'm like, Ma, that little face, that little boy, and now he's a man with hair and
Yeah.
muscles, and like, where is
Yeah,
that
it's so
kid?
funny you should say that because I've just been saying that to people myself because all my friends my age, their kids are grown or at least, college age probably. And they're like, oh, it goes so fast. But with social media, I find myself already
Yeah,
looking back on stuff from a year ago. And it's constant reminder of how fast she's growing.
for sure, for sure. But look, I wish you nothing but continued success, and
Thank you.
hopefully our paths will cross in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, thank you for everybody who's watched my dry bar special.
Absolutely. It's brianbatescomedy.com, right?
That's it. That's my
And the
website.
two specials, uber important. Hello, folks. All his clips are also on his website. And you keep listening to Behind the Bar, post it, share it, whatever you people do on the social media. Brian, if
Thank
you
you.
don't mind hanging out for a few seconds after we stop this, and
Sure.
thanks again for being on.
Thank you.